Busy week here on the ranch. We've been out filling protein feeders before the big rainstorm comes. We're supposed to have like 8 days of rain.
Yay.
Yeah, we spent all day in town yesterday getting groceries for some upcoming guests. We have some hunters coming in this afternoon. So I've been in the kitchen baking some cookies. We always have fresh homemade cookies when hunters come, but the cowboy and one of our guides is keto. So I'm gonna make my Keto Fudge Ribbon Cake that came out this past week for them to keep them on track over the weekend so they're not tempted by, cookies. So I wanted to show you quickly how to make this like keto fudge ribbon cake. This recipe, I used to eat this cake as a child. One of my mom, it was always on the table for potlucks, gatherings, Easter. So easy. It was really originally done with a cake mix. So it was just easy for her to throw together. This version is just as easy with like homemade, just from scratch ingredients, nothing out of the ordinary. So it should take maybe like 15 minutes to throw together, bakes for 45, and it's done in a bundt cake. So there's no frosting needed. You can frost it if you'd like, but no frosting needed. So
I prefer it without frosting. We
prefer it without frosting, but you can drizzle it with chocolate syrup. You can make a thinner like chocolate ganache. You can even just sprinkle it with like powdered sweetener if you'd like. But I mean, I think it's really yummy without sweetener. So we're gonna get started. So first we're gonna prep the pan. I'm using a 10-inch or a 10-cup capacity bundt pan. So this is like a fancy version. This is dangerous because there's a lot of cracks and crevices. Feel free to use like a smoother one. Just grease it really well. And I'm gonna dust mine with cocoa. I'll show you how I do that. We've also made this cake by making the whole batch of batter and splitting it into 2 loaf pans, and it works out great too. So we just line those loaf pans with, spray them or grease them with butter. You can line them with parchment so it kind of goes to the bottom and comes up the side so you can pull the cake out and it's good to go. So we're gonna show you how to do it in the bundt pan. Hopefully it comes out. I have like a notorious record with bundt pans, so.
Like there have been incidences where we've had to piece the cake either together or it just completely falls apart.
Just cover it up with frosting, honey. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
So we're gonna show you how to prep this cake. So let's get started. So I'm gonna grease my pan with melted butter, and it's soft melted. I just put this in the microwave for like 15 seconds. And I use a silicone brush and I just get in here to all these crevices and grease the pan up. If you have a smoother pan, you could definitely do this with a paper towel. But I like to get in here with the brush kind of bristles first, and then I'll use a paper towel to go over it. And make sure you do this really well, or like I said, your cake may stick. So I'm gonna get in here and get this done. Okay, as you can see, the pan's all buttered up. I'm like super generous with this because we definitely don't want it to stick. And don't forget this middle section right here because your cake will bake up, and if this isn't greased, then it'll stick to it. So now I'm gonna take some cocoa instead of using like the butter flour to prevent the sticking. I'm gonna use cocoa, which is gluten-free, keto-friendly. So unsweetened cocoa powder, and I'm gonna put a couple tablespoons in here. I'm gonna shake it around and coat it, and then I'm gonna tap it on my sink upside down to kind of get rid of the excess. So I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so this is my cake pan all ready to go. Maddie also made a point, you know, like a lot of times when you use flour, you have like this chalky kind of dry mess on the outside of your cake. The cocoa kind of just sinks in and kind of just makes your cake more chocolatey. So, I mean, how bad can that be? So this is my cake pan. So I'm gonna set this aside and get started on the batter. Okay, so I'm gonna use my whisk attachment on my, you can do this with a handheld mixer too. I'm gonna use a whisk attachment and I'm gonna whisk these eggs for probably 2 to 3 minutes until they're fluffy and light and foamy. And I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so this is what your eggs will look like when they're done. Sorry about that shadow there, but they're like foamy. And about, I don't know, 2 to 3 times their volume as they were before. So I'm gonna mix the rest of this by hand so you can see really well. Otherwise, I would probably just continue using this whisk in the mixer and just whisk everything together real quick. But for the purpose of the video, I'm gonna go ahead and use my handy dandy whisk. So, okay, in the bowl I have all the dry ingredients: almond flour, coconut flour, salt, baking soda, baking powder, and some cocoa. So all this goes into the eggs and we're gonna whisk it up. This is super easy. It comes together in like no time. You don't have to worry about over mixing anything, which is great because there's no gluten in here. So like you see, that came together super quick. So now I'm gonna add my sweetener. So I'm using Lakanto Golden Sweetener. You can add or use any kind of sweetener you'd like. This is right under a cup of sweetener. I'm gonna add my avocado oil in. I use avocado oil instead of butter because it just makes the cake really moist. And then some sour cream, which also just adds like some tanginess.
Some extra moisture.
And moisture to the cake. And then we're gonna stir all this together. All right, I'm swapping over to my rubber spatula just to get the sides of the bowl really well. And that's it. That's it for the chocolate part of the batter. So I'm gonna put this in our pan and do our cream cheese layer really quick. All right, so I have my batter in my pan. And now I'm gonna do the cream cheese ribbon layer. So I have 8 ounces of cream cheese softened with about 2 tablespoons of softened butter. And to this comes together super quick. I'm gonna add 2 whole eggs, 2 tablespoons of coconut flour, and some vanilla. And I'm gonna use a handheld mixer to whisk it together. You can also use a whisk. I just think it comes together just quickly. There, now we're all together. So we're gonna go mix. Okay, I'm about mixed together. I'm gonna add my sweetener now so it doesn't go everywhere when I start the mixer. So I'm gonna add about 6 tablespoons of, this is Lakanto, this is the powdered sweetener. So you wanna use powdered sweetener. And I'm gonna do about 6 tablespoons just to sweeten it up just a little bit. All right. Since my bowl is so small, I'm gonna stir it together by hand for a minute and then I'll finish mixing it together with the mixer. I'm glad you can't see my shirt because it's literally all over it. Use a bigger bowl. Okay, so this is my cream cheese filling for my cake. Make sure it's mixed together well. Use a bigger bowl than I did or you will wear half of it. Ask me how I know. And so we're going to spoon the cream cheese mixture on top of the cake batter. And every time I bake this, it seems like the ribbon layer comes out in a different spot in the cake, but it really doesn't matter because it just tastes good. So we're gonna put this all in there. And I just kind of, I don't really smooth it out, but I just make sure the layer's even over the top. And then we're ready to go in the oven. So this is gonna go into a 350-degree oven for about 45 minutes. Keep an eye on it. This cream cheese part will brown. So if it's getting too brown, just loosely lay a piece of foil over the top of it to prevent it from over browning. And just a tip, I know it's, sometimes I want to put a pan like this that has a rounded bottom on a sheet pan. Do not do that, because when you put this in the oven, my hand is full of stuff, real life here. When you bake like this in the oven with a bundt pan, the tube in the middle helps circulate heat and it helps bake the cake evenly. So if you put a pan under here, it's gonna block air movement through the center tube and your cake is not gonna bake correctly. So make sure you just stick it in the oven like this, trust that it'll come out okay. Do not put it on a sheet pan. So there you go. So in the oven we go, 45 minutes, and we'll have a baked cake. Okay, cake is in the oven. So about 45 minutes from now, we'll turn it out and show you the finished product.
Yeah.
So cross your fingers.
Yes.
All right, cake out of the oven.
And it came out of the pan.
Perfectly. So the lesson to be learned here is grease your pan really well, coat it. You can use, if you're not gluten intolerant or gluten sensitive or have celiac disease, you can use the spray that has the flour in it. That's gonna be a little bit easier than trying to coat it, but and it won't leave as much flour as like coating your pan with flour. So that's another way you can do it too if you're okay using that. So our cake is out of the oven. I use, like I said, a 10 cup capacity bundt pan. So I think it's still a little warm, but
that's okay.
We're gonna cut it into it anyway. So like I said, okay, you could top this cake with drizzle of like a really loose ganache. You could sprinkle it with some powdered sweetener, chocolate syrup, sugar-free chocolate syrup. Choc Zero makes a good sugar-free chocolate syrup that would be good drizzled on here, or just leave it plain. So it's good.
But I thought peanut butter.
Okay, peanut butter, maybe. The peanut butter drizzle? I mean, how can that be bad?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna cut it up and I will show you how the tunnel comes out. So keep in mind, this is still pretty warmish, but like I said, we've never been one to wait for a chocolate cake. So there it is. There's a little tunnel. Oh my gosh, it's like steamy hot. So
ooh, that's pretty.
Wait for your cake to cool till it's completely cool. Do not cut it hot like I did. It's gonna taste much better when it's cooled to room temperature. But I wanted to show you what it looked like in the middle. So you have your ribbon and you kind of have this tunnel through the middle. So freaking good. Nattie's gonna try it hot. I like it room temperature.
Me too.
The texture really improves. Not that it's bad now, but it firms up and I think it tastes even better.
Okay.
So I really think that the texture improves like 100% sitting and letting it cool to room temperature. Don't try to eat it warm. Everything gets better when it sits, but I mean, she's eating it warm.
And it's not.
I mean, it's not warm, it's hot.
Yeah, it's good.
So let it sit on the counter, let it cool to room temperature, and then cut it up and serve it. So it doesn't take long to cool. This cake baked in the oven about 45 to 50 minutes. My oven sometimes heats unevenly, so there had like one spot on the side. I kind of had to rotate it at the end and cover it with foil so it didn't over brown. Other than that, there you go. Keto Fudge Ribbon Cake. Super easy, delicious. We have cookies done. They're boxed up, ready to go out to hunters. We have people arriving and I'm getting ready to start on some dinner, some tacos for dinner. Just a quick tip. We're doing tacos for dinner We have a handful of us on keto, a handful of us not. So a big taco bar with the option to do like corn or flour tortillas, but also do a taco bowl is usually what we do. We love them. We
So
do it with fajitas too. So that's what we're doing tonight, is kind of a big taco bar. So I'm going to get started on the ground beef, and we're going to go welcome some people, but we wanted to show you what the finished cake looked like before we got
And it tastes delicious.
wrapped up in ranch life. So yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see y'all next time with another fun keto recipe, and y'all have a good one. Bye.
Bye.